planner will provide why we need, like, I think, Adam, I don't want to put you in the middle of this, but I believe the engineer's recommendation would be based on, not based on what DTA said they wanted, or what Rex said they wanted, but based on the population and the activities that go on. So the activities that go on are the sporting events. They're the team sports, they're their seasons. I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's not, you know, it's not that DTAA said we want lighting and we want to do longer seasons or extended seasons. There was nothing like that. It was, what are the uses of the, so if you want to know what DTAA said, I would say ask DTAA what their needs are at the park. They have open meetings, so anybody could go to a DTAA meeting. But you could also just look and see what their schedules are, because that's really all it was what are they using, what fields are being used, and what fields need repair and upgrades.
Yeah, I could speak to, I mean, I didn't record the meeting or anything. I was in attendance of the meeting with our park planner. And Jay is a well-experienced landscape architect and professional planner, so I really trust his recommendations. But from my recollection, the conversations were not, we need this or we need that. It was, we want to make sure it's a park that's inclusive for everyone. The thoughts are to incorporate more passive recreation opportunities as well as the already very active recreation opportunities. As the mayor had indicated, improving safety, improving circulation, maybe better organizing the circulation through the site so you don't have as much cross traffic and conflicts. There isn't any current really accessible parking on the site for handicapped individuals to access the various areas. And that was really the discussion. There was no list of demands or requirements. It was more, this is what's happening there, and we'd like to really make it a more inclusive park for the entire township. So that's what I understood from the conversations. I wasn't at the meeting last month, but as we're sitting here, I pulled up the concept plans. I mean, it looks like there are some seating areas, some other things, addressing some environmental concerns, stormwater concerns. There is some indication and some discussion, or some indications on the plans to address stormwater on the site. So to speak to your concerns, addressing runoff. It looks like, if we were to, and I haven't been involved in any sort of design discussions at this point, but I would be involved in the designs if they ever come to fruition, if something's finally decided upon. We will be required by the DEP, by the Soil Conservation District, to address stormwater, water quality, runoff, rate of runoff, and making sure we don't have erosion or offsite impacts. All that will be considered in an ultimate design that the township will be, and the committee will ultimately approve to move forward to construction. But nothing at this point has been done. We don't even have a survey of the site. We have an old survey from, I think, 1994 or 92 or something.
And the hand-drawn map.
Yeah. So
Thank you,
that's all I can add.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Julie Parker. Any address? Nope.
No.
So when I'm hearing everybody, am I correct in understanding that this is really maintenance and improvement of what we have, not expansion?
So I would,
So,
go ahead. I was going to answer your question, but finish.
because, so I'll leave it at that and see what you think.
I would say based on the initial concept that we saw, the vast majority is improvements to existing facilities, yes. That would also, though, include, the only expansion I think that could be included in the concept would be expansion to the trail system, improvements to the trail system, because right now it's kind of disjointed, and I think the recommendation is to kind of bring everything into it and possibly expand the trail system. And
So I guess where I was going, so like we're concerned, and you should be too, if all the traffic goes by your house. Are they going to make the park bigger or more, or able to hold more people at one time, or are we, you know what I'm saying?
so the footprint of the park,
Are we making
Changed.
a nicer parking lot for the amount of cars that are currently there, or are we?
okay, so that's a great question. The increase in parking, I shouldn't even say increase because I think it's going to end up being a net near Wash, because it would be eliminating 2 parking lots under the plan that, if it went this way, right, just in the concept, it would be eliminating the parking lot by the snack shack, and it would be eliminating the parking lot by the tennis court. So additional parking would need to be found, but one of the main things is that very often, there's either not enough parking or incorrect parking that's done down there, because when people come from out of town, they park in the grass, they park on the trails, they park wherever they can because they're at capacity. I think for folks who use the park Monday through Friday when there's nothing else going on, you're not going to see, there wouldn't be much of an impact, because it's not going to invite more, it's not a concept that's going to invite more people to come to Diltz Park, because nobody's, we want it to be better for the people that are coming here, is probably the best answer to your question. The only proposal, I think, that's on the park plan that could possibly have more people come to Diltz Park is pickleball, which we've already discussed at a number of township committee meetings. Go ahead.
Thank you. So does that mean that?
Sorry.
Name for the clerk?
Howard.
Thank you.
Is it the idea of having a road that goes through any ingress by Headquarters Road?
There's no recommendation of that at this point. The only thing that's being looked at on the additional park acreage is passive hiking trails, walking trails. No, I don't think, there's no lane on the proposal.
Because we heard that there was thinking about it.
I never heard it before. Actually, somebody said it earlier, but I never heard it before tonight, no. Not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Yes, in the back.
Bob Weber. Let me tell you where my angst comes from. Towards the end of his presentation on the proposal, people started talking about that field that's across from Stone Kings, that hay field, saying, yeah, there could possibly be a field here. I know they said it because they started talking about the rock strata below it, would be able to substantiate that. Okay? Then in another part, they started looking at, I don't know what the big hayfield parcel is that's over there by Headquarters Road, runs over the park. They started talking about, and there's this land over here could possibly be fields too, and we could put a road in from Headquarters Road. People were speculating on that. I recognize it's a speculation. But I'm here, and I'm hearing that thing, there are people who got designs on making this into, I don't know, some really big deal here.
Well, they're not here.
Excuse me, let me talk. People, just let me finish, okay? It seemed there's some people who had some grand designs here. Now, whether or not that would ever happen or not, when they talked about the park and improving the central part of the park, I have no problem with that. When they started looking at all the hay fields and all the open space around it and started talking about plans to put in fields here, fields there, a new road coming in there, I'm going, what the hell's going on? That's my angst.
Next question. Anyone else? Yes, in the back.
It
Oh,
wasn't
sorry.
a question,
Go
it
to-
was a statement.
I was asking if somebody else had a question.
Okay.
In the front.
Richard Stowe. I've been a resident there, where I live now for like 32 years. And I've just seen the activity of the park progressively increase. And the traffic, as you know, we've already stated that fact. But, and I don't know whether any of this money is going to go towards the maintenance. I know, and there's a problem. You're going to build more, but can't maintain. The tennis courts falling apart. My brother-in-law, weed waxed the basketball courts, and if you don't know it, he hung up all the new basketball nets. So his daughter, his granddaughter, can practice basketball there. So I look at the main need of this park is maintenance, things that we're not even able to maintain. Tennis courts, but now we're going to build pickleball courts. I see I don't know if it's bocce or lawn bowling. Nobody uses that. Okay. So I walk my dogs there every day. I never see them. Anyhow, so we're building something that we can't maintain. Am I right? We're not maintaining.
No. Let me. Can I?
Yeah.
As long as you're done. What I meant when I said it's not for maintenance is that we were very clear with the ordinance that the open space monies would not be used towards annual maintenance at Diltz Park or day-to-day maintenance at Diltz Park. The projects like tennis courts or pickleball or basketball court improvements or ball field improvements don't necessarily fall under the category of upkeep and maintenance. Those are longer term projects, what's the capital improvements? If it has longer than a 5-year lifespan, then it counts as a capital improvement rather than maintenance. So,
Bathrooms too?
yes,
Handicap and
yeah,
everything?
yes. So,
We can do that?
yeah, so that's, what you just said is really the heart of where this whole thing even started from, is that we don't have enough money, without raising taxes significantly, we don't have enough money to improve and maintain what's down at Dills Park right now. So nothing has gotten done.
Right.
I shouldn't say that, that's disrespectful to DPW. Very minimal stuff has gotten done, and DTAA. Minimal stuff has gotten done in the last couple of years because the cost of everything has gone up. And the proposal that we put to the public in the resolution was, if we want to make like significant improvements to the bathroom, I mean, I think that the main things we talked about when we were going out to referendum were the bathrooms, ball fields, and courts, right? Not a swimming pool that was out there for a while too. Not anything to make any major changes, but to improve on the facilities that are there. And our commitment has been all along that we will go to the public, if we are making any change to, to existing facilities or additions to existing facilities, we would go to the public and get public input on that. To the points that were made earlier, we haven't made any decision on that. We got a proposal, and I think the next step would be to have the park planner say, okay, here's what I proposed, and have the township committee next year say, all right, what do we want to do? Let's come up with a 5-year plan. Bring that 5-year plan. Say, okay, here's the 5-year project plan that the park planner gave us. Go to the public and say, okay, for the first 2 years, we're going to fix the parking lots and ball fields. The next, it's going to be that kind of thing. It's not, nobody's going to wake up one day and say, oh my God, Dills Park looks like Central Park, New York. That's not in the proposal, regardless of what people might have talked about in the audience at previous meetings. That's not in the proposal. So it's a very, very strategic and diplomatic way. And I would, to the diplomatic part, I would also say, without pointing fingers, there are 2 residents in the audience who made requests about the expansion of Dills Park. Those requests were honored, and changes were made based on resident input almost immediately to make sure that the needs of the residents that surround the park were met. So to suggest that this committee or this township on the whole has been not willing to hear it, we're here once a month. Anybody can come anytime and talk about it. The Dills Park plan is on the agenda almost every other month, if not every month. So we would never do anything to all of a sudden make this big jump and switch that's been proposed. I have to go to people who haven't asked questions.
So you say repeatedly, and I'm happy to hear, that you want to solicit public input. But if public input comes through those that can attend these meetings, it will be limited because we're a very diverse community. Part of the reason Friends of Dills Farm Park suggested a committee was that it be inclusive and that it be diverse. Because right now, the individuals that met with the park planner from Open Space, the Environmental Commission, the Shade Tree Commission, REC, and DTAA. Am I leaving anybody out? Okay.
Planning board.
And the planning board. So we need a needs analysis to add future facilities. We need ongoing public input. We don't need squeaky wheels saying, hey, I think we need a bocce court, or hey, I think we need this. We need an ongoing group of residents that can be part of gathering public input and bringing it to the township committee. Right now, what you have are people coming to these meetings and shouting because people do not feel well served by the current process. They just don't. So, and if I can also add something, when you were talking about the lower Delaware Wild and Scenic River System, you used some interesting terminology. You said you were concerned about impingement of property rights, especially those that live near these locations. You are concerned about impingement on their property rights of the property owners and the taxpayers of this township. I was scribbling pretty quickly when you
You
spoke.
missed my correction, I changed it from impingement to infringement,
Okay,
so just.
all right.
just for you.
Well, we've got it now on video, so that'll help.
Okay.
So my understanding is consensus is the best way to move forward on any project, right? You don't think so?
I'm not understanding what you're asking about.
What I'm asking you to do is I am asking you to form a subcommittee composed of representatives of those township subcommittees and include some residents. Do a needs analysis before you spend money. Do a needs analysis before you decide we want pickleball or we don't want pickleball. Do a needs analysis, because otherwise it comes down to who can attend these meetings and who can shout the loudest.
Okay, anything else?
Representative Taylor, I have just a couple things to talk about. The Lower Delaware Wild and Scenic River thing was beautifully presented at the last meeting. And I took exhaustive notes of that meeting.
I can't hear you.
I took exhaustive notes so if anybody would like to know what happened with that presentation, I have it as well as on a recording. Also, the same with the park. I just want to mention that, as you have mentioned several times, that Diltz Park comes up at almost every meeting. So the agenda for last month's meeting said update on Diltz Park. It didn't say presentation by the park planner. That's why people were upset.
The park plan wasn't at the last meeting.
October.
October 21st. Yeah.
I thought it was at the September meeting, wasn't it?
No,
I'm
no.
sorry, I apologize.
Regardless,
I thought it was 2 meetings.
it didn't say that the presentation was being made. People who had a right to know, in the general public, but also on those committees that we've been referring to, didn't know that that was happening. I'm just saying. The people were left out.
Our meetings are every month, nobody's left out. Any other comments?
I'm saying it wasn't on the agenda. Nobody knew.
Go ahead.
I just had a question about, again, understanding exactly what space the park consists of. 3 separate lots. There's Saratoga Park, as it was given to the township. There's the Reamer property, which there's, in the last 2 years, there's been all kinds of an increased desire to make that space utilized and open as part of the passive recreation. And yes, the township has listened to some of the residents who had asked to hear our concerns about locations of paths and things like that. And we greatly appreciate having heard us and did something about it. But there's a third property that was purchased through the Green Acres program, which is adjacent part of the park that seems to be left out of this whole planning process. And I'd love to know what is the King property, which is part of the town park, which was purchased with the exact same funding that purchased the Rainbow property. Is that being considered as part of this?
I thought it was. I thought it was in. I
didn't see.
thought the trail was looking at going through that as
The
well.
plan was hard to read because it doesn't even show the existing ball fields on Buchanan. Like, did they go away or they're?
No, it wasn't perfect, like we noticed some of the things were
It
missing.
raises a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Are they just moving everything, which would
Yeah.
be
There
financially?
was, I will say, that there was no, there was something on there that had another field that
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to be there either. There was
Okay.
no additional ball fields, that one that was missing needs to be added back, it's
Yeah.
already there. And there was no additional, soccer fields being added to the park.
Which,
In the
the
additional-
original question, if there was some sort of a program for this, it would be helpful to understand the plan, if we knew what was being included in the program. That's all.
Yeah, and that, again, I hate to say it over and over again, but as plans are developed, that's what we're going to do. I mean, before plans happen, before they're voted on, that's what the township committee is committed to doing, is to having it where there's a discussion about, and I think, and I'm only speaking from my own knowledge of it, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but I think development of the Reamer property isn't even on the radar right now, except for trails.
But Kane's been owned by the township for two plus
Oh,
decades at this
Kane is
point.
also, the only issue there is that that's also a, what's it called? It's a wildlife, it's a hunting easement,
It's actually Green Acres.
right, but
Right
there's,
now it's used
but
for-
there's a hunting permit
But
that's,
that's up to you guys. You guys can change that. just
Right, and that's the-
put a
right, that,
walking trail. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been, and hey, look, I got no, our property abuts both of them, so I'm not trying to push this off to other neighbors. We're collected, we just wanna make sure that we're planning for all of it, all of us.
right. Well, and again, that's why I think, the idea that there's something bigger in anybody's plans, that's not in our plans. So the core focus right now, and I would suggest that this is probably a 5 to 8 year plan, is to maintain, update, and repair what's in the central part of Dilts Park right now. That's the primary focus of what needs to be done. You're talking about at least 3 to 5 years worth of financing to be able to do bathroom, tennis, basketball, field improvement, parking lot improvement, playground improvement. I mean, that's 5 years is a long time. And of course, this group is probably gonna change in 5 years. So there will be, I mean, it's, the main thing is that's why it has to stay here. Because the township, like I said before, I understand people's frustrations, I really do. Because I think there's certainly some miscommunication, and we own that. But there's also miscommunication that's being put out there, right? There's miscommunications about, somebody had a conversation in the meeting room about a roadway coming through. For years, I've been labeled as the guy who wants to put a pool at Dilts Park. I've never ever said that ever. But that's what people attribute to me, that I want a public pool at Dilts Park. It's nonsense. So it's hard to filter through the nonsense that's out on social media. People like doing that. They like drumming up that stuff, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're on Facebook or not, but your neighbor reads it on Facebook and says, oh, this is what they're gonna do. Listen clearly and spread the word. There is no design to build the hell out of Dilts Park, right? Do we all agree?
Correct. The one thing you
Everybody-
didn't mention was safety, like, that's the biggest
No,
thing.
no, I get that.
For the kids.
There's no, the only outlandish thing that has come up, the only outlandish thing, and I shouldn't even use the word outlandish, the only new concept that has come up, and we've talked exhaustively about it, is pickleball. Everything else is standard park maintenance, upkeep, and like I said earlier, it's the kind of thing that in no other township, in Raritan Township, they would never be having these conversations. I'm glad we're having them, but it's important to know that we are taking public input, we are listening to people's concerns. We adjusted the trails for residents that asked us to adjust the trails. As a taxpayer, other people might say, are you kidding? I can't use parts of trails because somebody complained about it? Well, yeah, that's what we're doing right now. Mrs. Klink.
Thank you. I'm Kathy Klink. I live on Ferry Road. I have 3 things and I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget any of them. Your discussion about the subcommittee tonight was the clearest explanation I've heard so far about the fact that it was a data collecting subcommittee. Honestly, because I didn't understand that at all from the get-go, so I appreciate that explanation. The next one is kind of for you, Joe. I believe the escrow ordinance has language in it that says when it drops below a percentage, it's supposed to be replenished. So,
No, it should, and in theory, the secretary would be monitoring that, but the reality is, right,
Thank you, Chuck.
but the reality is, if it's too low, you are creating needless work so,
right, right.
we'll
So, but I
try
do
and
know
fix
that
it.
that language is there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the last thing, it goes back to the lower Delaware and scenic thing. And the confusion that I have is that I know that you're gonna discuss it in closed session, but I would hope that the decision involves township input as well as a result of your discussion and as a result of the presentation by the lower, whatever, those
Yeah.
letters are just crazy. But anyway, I would just hope that that decision comes to all of us. Again, that's all that people want, is just to be part of decisions. That's all.
And that, agreed, Kathy, and that's why we're gonna not take action on it tonight.
Good,
We'll
thank
get
you.
advice from council, which is required by law to be in closed session, and then we'll
Thank you.
discuss it at the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Anybody who
Oh, and thanks
hasn't,
for all your work, by the way.
anybody who hasn't asked a question, that has a question or a comment?
So, you know, a lot of conversation tonight about Dilts, but I will say that this season, with the parking situation specifically, it's kind of out of control. You know, there's a lot of kids running across that parking lot, and that, you know, where it's paved over there isn't really a parking lot. We just kind of park there. So there is a big safety concern with the parking at Dilts, and you know, I know you guys are looking into it, and keeping all of that in the center of the park so that they don't have to cross back and forth through the parking lot is just, I mean, if you're there at the park on Saturdays, you see it. And the people that are from Delaware, they drive slow. It's the people that are from like East Anwell that fly through that parking lot, and, you know, other towns that don't know. So sooner we can like fix these things, you know, the better. I don't think there's any intention to like rebuild the park. It's just make it safer for the kids and for people that use it, you know. So that was the only comment. And then the other thing, I know at the last meeting, you guys asked about the AED at the park. So I got pricing on that. And then you got, I can share that with you guys, and then you guys can decide where you want to put it and what you want to do with it. But it's about $2K to get the box, the pads, all this stuff, and then the steel thing that you would put outside to sit in, so all together and stuff.
Okay. So what the township will look to do then is to, as long as DTA is still agreeable to putting their one, if we provide the box and everything for it, and then the township will put another one there,
Yeah.
someplace else.
Yeah, just one for the sports and then one for anybody at the park in case something bad happens.
Thank you, Mario. Before, just to jump off of what Mario said, the other thing I think is important for the people in this room that are concerned about spending money at Dilts Park, no, I shouldn't say it that way, about Dilts Park, is DTAA has spent, I think, $25,000 of DTAA money this year alone.
Last 2 years, we spent 15
Yeah.
and then another 20.
So that's why, to the point about maintenance, a lot of the maintenance that's being done down there for sports, because, you know, you hear from people that say, well, why is my money going to that? My kids are out of sports, and I think everybody understands that, you know, you don't always pay for you know, you pay for all the generations, but to their credit, DTAA for the last number of years has done an awful lot of work down there, so a lot of the maintenance that is being done down there is being done by the Friends of DTAA.
Volunteers.
Okay, now we'll go to double questions.
Oh, I didn't ask at all.
No, sorry, I thought you did. You spoke a couple times, I apologize.
No, that was in the first public comments, but thank you. A couple things. You had mentioned about the field being, the Reamer Trail being disjointed, and you also said that, and we know 2 years ago that you guys moved the trail off the perimeter and put it out because it was a safety reason. So you did listen to us, right? So now I'm hearing that you're saying it's just disjointed and there's going to be more trails. So are we going back to where we were? What exactly does that mean?
So when I said disjointed, it had nothing to do with Reamer.
Oh, okay, so.
If you look at the entryway of the park and the trails that go through there, that's all split up by roadways and
You mean over at the entrance?
on Buchanan Road.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what the plan would be for the Reamer, but that had nothing to do with what I was talking about earlier.
And I just want to, the communication, I think this whole thing with Friends of Dilts Pond Park, with 68 people signing it, is very telling. It's saying that there's some disconnect, some kind of disconnect. There's no, you did this, we did this. I think we should stop doing that. I'm seeing you over there, Mr. Chad Bauer, waving your hand, you didn't read this, and rolling up your eyes. That's not government either. We need guidance.
Excuse me.
We need
What I'm
guidance.
saying is the minutes from the October 10th meeting, which was last month, were just approved tonight. They'll be posted on the website tomorrow,
Okay.
okay? That's why you don't have them right now.
All he was doing was
I thought
suggesting.
you were
that-
talking about all the other.
No, I'm telling you,
I
this
keep hearing
is
people
what,
say it's on the website, but I don't see anything on the website.
correct, because they just got approved tonight,
Okay, so you're just talking about last month's.
which has all the information that is being discussed tonight.
Okay.
Give her a day or two to put it
So,
up.
and again, last month, it wasn't on the agenda, and that's why a lot of people didn't show up. And when you did say we had an opportunity to talk about it during public comments, the planner already left because the meeting was 2 hours long. By the time we got to public comments, everybody was exhausted, and we didn't get all that feedback.
Okay, Diane, if I could just address that. We had originally, the park planner was coming just to present to the township committee because 4 of the 5 of us had never met him before. So the concept that he came in under was that he was coming in to present his proposal, not proposal, but his concept plan to the township committee. But instead, in the 11th hour, said, okay, I'm gonna present this to the residents. So it was mostly because that's not how he was coming into the meeting. It was to respect his professional opinion that he was coming to present to the township committee. No action was being taken. We put it on the website immediately, or a couple days later. So it wasn't the way that it was designed. The park planner will come back for a public meeting, but that was not the public. That was his first introduction to the township committee, and he went above and beyond what his expectations were and presented that to the township.
Mayor, can I jump in and just add, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion tonight, and there's clearly been a misunderstanding and miscommunication about whether or not this township committee is committed to transparency and openness. You're going to be able to, when the clerk posts the minutes that were approved tonight, you're gonna see it, but it's important for all of you to read this, and I'm gonna just read from page 1 and page 3 of the minutes that were approved tonight. On page 1 of the minutes that were approved, Mayor Herman stated that the purpose of this presentation is to present initial findings to the Township Committee. There will be a future meeting for the public input. That was stated in the meeting for everybody who was in attendance. So the mayor went on the record as saying it's an initial presentation, and there's gonna be public input. On page 3, the third paragraph, excuse me, Mayor Herman thanked Mr. DeFelice and stated that they would meet again. Mayor Herman thanked Mr. DeFelice, and changes would be discussed at a public meeting for input before moving forward.
Right.
So the records have always documented this township committee has only discussed preliminary steps, always with the public in mind, and that has been stated at every meeting, and it's memorialized in the minutes. So to the extent that there are people on social media or elsewhere that are saying different things, I'm sorry about that. But as a township attorney, I'm at every meeting, and I know in every meeting I've been here, it's been abundantly clear that there would be nothing done without a full hearing and input. But you have to start somewhere. You can't comment without there being a piece of paper to comment on. It doesn't mean that because they've started a process that you're being excluded from it. That's never been part of the equation. And I just think I needed to correct the record because there's been a lot of discussion on it, and I just want, for those who are concerned, please, I'm asking you to go read the minutes of the meeting so you can see that whatever people are talking about, it is not grounded in reality. It's just not. And I'm sorry, I didn't want to, you could say but you know, what was said, and there was always discussions about it. So, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Mayor, but I just had to.
You opened the door.
No, I didn't open the door, I just corrected the record.
No, let me
Thank you,
finish.
council.
Just please let me finish. On the meeting on May 8th, I wrote an open letter to the Township Committee, and I stood up and read an open letter about the pickleball. And then I sent it to everybody via email. If you go back to the May 8th meeting minutes, you will not see it that I did that. It's not even discussed. So if you're telling me it's on every month, I would beg to differ that it's not always that way. So maybe there was some township clerk issues during those months, I don't know, but there's not always verbatim and it's not always clear, okay? And the second thing I wanted to talk about is the endorsement of the designation of creeks into the lower Delaware Wild and Scenic River system. We came here, we were on the Environmental Commission, it was presented multiple times, and then Robert McEwen came here. He did a shortened version of the presentation, and I know you made a great suggestion. You really wanted the attorney to view it. You came in today, and you said it has to be discussed during an executive session, and then you said this is a significant issue. Significant. You said it twice. Now everybody's wondering what the heck is going on. This doesn't sound good. I mean, I get worried that it had to be in executive session number one, and that's a significant. I would love to know what that means. And I just want to say, maybe having Robert come back, because we spent a lot of time with him and we endorsed it as a part of the Environmental Commission. And I think it has a lot of value, but I think there's also concerns about the residents, what you're saying. But they did note that if Kingwood Township and East Amwell or West Amwell approved this, but if Delaware Township does not, they cannot go through with it.
I understand that completely, but I do know for a fact as well that there are other municipalities and other townships that have not approved it.
Yeah.
So,
Understand.
so that, just the mere fact that neighbors are approving something doesn't mean that we should.
And
I'm sorry. And I think it's very important that when we have the executive session, which the township attorney is going to make his recommendation or point out exactly what is going on insofar as with this designation, we have decided to come back at our next meeting and ultimately discuss those to you, the public, so that you understand the basis for our ultimate decision. So that's just another, we're trying our best to be transparent, because obviously there's a communication breakdown here, and we need to bridge that gap. So I think that's a good start. And then as far as the park is concerned going forward, I think we need to be open and clear exactly what's going on with subcommittee meetings. And Frank, I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know there was this other subcommittee meeting that occurred. So I think there needs to be a little bit better communication there as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Mayor.
Chuck Klein, resident. I want to thank the Township Committee for not including the zoning board in this discussion. We've got enough things to do. But I have a question for our engineer. Going from tier, B to A,
Right.
will there be any changes required from our sewage treatment plant, such as materials, PFOAs, polyfluorinated hydrocarbons, effluents? Are there any changes?
That's really a separate, the GIFTI's permit program for wastewater is separate from the MS4 Tier A permit program. It's a separate permit that the NJDEP issues. One is for stormwater specifically, and the other is for wastewater treatment.
Okay, thank you.
So they're unrelated programs.
Okay. Now, the other question is, we are currently without a permanent secretary for the Board of Adjustment. By ordinance or by NOUL, I'm not sure which, we are required to reorganize by having the secretary open the meeting. If we have no secretary, we can't reorganize. And if we can't reorganize, we cannot have meetings. Now, I have not discussed this yet with attorney. I know that's what Joe would suggest I do.
Correct.
So, I plan to do that, but in the meantime, and I've been back and forth with Diane trying to find out, what's going on, and I assume we've had no more applicants, is that correct?
That's correct.
So there's got to be something done, and I'm hoping maybe a shared agreement with another township.
If the planning board and board of adjustment are able to find any kind of shared service, I agree with you. I think that would be the best way to do it.
Isn't that the job of the township committee, shared service?
Well, yes, but the planning board secretary and the board of adjustment secretary is the responsibility of the boards, right?
Neither one of us have one.
No, hiring one. So what I would say, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you guys, I would assume that either Steve Goodell or somebody on the planning board or board of adjustment know people, and you know.
No. From what I
So if,
understand-
what I would say is, I would suggest that if you and Roz want to get together and send a communication to neighboring communities and find somebody, and if there's an opportunity for shared service, we would probably jump on that.
Okay, I think the MLUL states that we have the right to pick the person, but it's the township committee that needs to hire that person.
Right,
And
yeah, so
bring
you
that
pick and we
person in.
hire, right?
Because, you know, you guys are gonna have to pay it.
Right. All we're doing with the secretary is just it's kind of pro forma, we're just, or, you know, saying, this is the recommendation of the Board of Adjustment and Planning Board.
So we've advertised, but we didn't get.
That's
any
correct,
takers.
we've advertised and have gotten nobody. But we got one person who quit before she got hired.
Where do you advertise this?
In the, Board
League of Municipalities.
Planning,
That's the best place.
yeah.
Because you need somebody that has that experience.
That's where they're gonna look, if they're looking.
There's a lot of jobs.
If you and Roz want to get a letter together, and I'll send it from the township committee to neighboring communities, to see if they have people to a shared service with, I'm fine with that too. I just don't know I don't know, like, what to ask for. I mean, I know the obvious of what to ask for, but you guys probably have more specifics on what you want than, you know, I mean, I just think.
How do we do with shared services with the police, with the fire department or rescue? Who does that?
Well, they're volunteers, so that's different. But if we do shared service with the police, that usually comes from the police.
You can have my salary.
Bless you. What'd you say? I didn't hear you,
I
Chuck.
said, you can have my salary. We're volunteers too.
No. I was answering your question about the rescue squads and fire companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said they're volunteers.
You said they're volunteers, I said, we are too.
Right, but those aren't shared
What I'm
services.
getting at, Charlie,
They're not shared services.
is I think it's the job of the mayor and the township committee to bring in applicants. And then it's our duty to decide which applicant is best suited for our application. And then your duty to hire them and pay them.
So if you have a recommendation on a better way for us to bring in applicants, we do the same thing with everything, right? We advertise in the league because that's where people who have that experience are looking for jobs.
Yeah, I think I'm asking you and the township committee to look into shared service with either West Danville, East Danville, Raritan, somebody.
Right, and as I said, if as the heads of the chairs of your respective committees, if you and Roz are okay with drafting a letter for me to send on behalf of the township to those neighboring communities to see if they have an opportunity for a shared service, I would welcome that and sign off on that.
Okay.
I think because otherwise I'm gonna draft a letter and I'm gonna send it to you guys and say, what do you think of this? I think it'd be better for you guys to send me the letter and say, this is what we should do.
Okay, we're not getting anywhere here. That's fine. We'll figure it out. We'll talk about it later.
Chuck, I'm happy to, in the boards that I represent, I'll nose around.
I appreciate that.
Because that's how I found Denise.
Boy, that was a lot. Thank you very much.
I'll see what I can do.
Great.
Sorry, Chuck, I thought I was offering what you were looking for. I guess I wasn't, but, did you have any more?
Nope, all done.
Any other public comment? Yes?
I just have one question. Were you able to contact JCP&L about the transformer at the school?
I sent her an email right after your email, but I don't recall getting an answer on it. I'll double check.
Can you nudge again? Because
Is it still there?
it's still there.
Okay.
It would just be, especially like that fire happened.
Right.
It would have been disastrous.
Agreed.
So, yeah, please.
Valerie Tucci, resident. Just a question that came up at one of the other meetings, and I often wondered this. What is the overlap of the facilities at Diltz Park and those at the school? And none? There aren't soccer fields there or anything?
I think they play
What do you mean by
school
overlap?
soccer on those fields, but they don't, The school team doesn't play at Dilts, and the Dilts kids don't play on the school fields.
But could they? I mean, I don't.
No, they never have, and I think it has something to do with insurance.
They have kids
Oh, okay, a long time ago
rec
then.
soccer at Delaware.
But they don't have the capacity. They don't have the capacity at Delaware to be able to do that, to have the Dilts kids come up.
Yeah, I mean, if we could shut down some of the fields and have them come up to DTS and do
Well,
it.
that's what, that was the point.
Yeah.
I wondered, is there an overlap?
There's just one field, unfortunately, so, and Mario, how many fields? There's usually like 4 fields running simultaneously, right?
We have 3 running all the time, and if we have the big field,
Okay.
that would be the 4th. If we have a kid, a league, they would.
And we don't, the school doesn't have the property to even be able to accommodate that, unfortunately.
So was your question to see if we could, instead of having people play down at Dills, have them play at DTS?
Or just, are we using
Everything to
the
the max.
Delaware Township School
Right.
property efficiently? You know, or is it just sitting empty all the time on the weekends? And I have no
Yeah, during the
idea.
weekends it is, but after school, I promise you, they're full on over there, so.
It just seems like an overlap. Where somebody doesn't use the.
Right.
Good question.
What are next steps for the park planning process? How will those dates be announced? And is it possible to host those public input sessions other than weekday evenings? Do something perhaps at DTS on a Saturday, so you can, and publicize it so you can bring in more people. Absent a formal needs analysis, you need to bring in a diverse group of people.
Well, I would argue that there's nothing more diverse than the entire township population, right? I mean, that's as much diversity as we're gonna get. So whatever we do, it would have to be to include as many people as we can.
Right, and do you agree that the small group of people that show up here on a weekday evening, who either don't have a problem driving at night or can get a babysitter or whatever, this is a small group.
Right, but-
Surely you want input from more than just this room.
I mean, I would be reluctant to not ask the reverse of that question, which is does it also mean that all the people that aren't here are fine with us, with things moving the way that they've seen it, right?
No one knows.
No, I know, but normally that's, you know, if we're doing something to impact taxes that are gonna affect a small amount of people, those are the people that come out. So I understand what you're saying, but
I think it's fair to say most people in the community do not have their finger on the pulse of what's happening at Dilts Farm Park.
well, I would say, I would expand on that and say that most people in the community don't have a pulse on anything that's going on. And I mean that with respect.
No,
I mean that with respect.
and I agree.
90% of the people just live their lives and let things happen and trust that when they cast their ballot, that the 5 people that are sitting here are gonna represent their best interest. And then there's 10% that say, I want more say, and that's fine, that's the balance. I wish it was more. We used to have budget meetings, honestly, if you weren't here for it, we used to have Saturday budget meetings that we sat here for 8 hours. We paid people to be here for 8 hours, and nobody was in the audience. We were voting on tax increases, we were voting on services. Nobody came to those meetings. And you bring up pickleball, and you get 100 people on one side or the other. So it's just interesting.
Right.
I think we could have it at Dilts Park on a Saturday, and you'd have, if we did it that way, you'd have an awful lot of people that are gonna say, do everything you need to do and get this park done. They might want us to go out to bond and do everything next year.
Well,
So
that's your job to solicit that input.
This
in
is
a
our
meeting.
job.
Well,
right?
who is going to solicit the input of people from the township? That's why I was asking for a subcommittee to not only do a needs analysis for the redevelopment plan, but guide the future of the park.
I know you want to keep using that needs analysis. The needs analysis is not, you're right that we would do that if we were looking at Reamer or if we were looking at Kane or anything else. The needs analysis is kind of the writing on the wall for the stuff that we're proposing right now.
Agreed, but
So-
you're talking about a short-term plan, admittedly.
Step 1.
Right, step 1, which is maintenance.
So let us do step 1.
Let me speak?
Yeah.
Okay, maintenance, safety, all that stuff, nobody can argue. Nobody can argue that the bathrooms need improvement. No one can argue the snack shack is falling down. Nobody can argue with that stuff. It's when, again, and I heard the same thing others in this audience heard about opening a driveway from Lambertville Headquarters Road so they could build additional playing fields and parking areas on the Reamer parcel. We heard that.
Okay, so can I say something now? I don't want to interrupt.
No, but let me
Okay.
finish.
Okay, go ahead.
The reason there is so much anxiety about what's going on with the park is nobody really knows. Nobody really understands how the decisions are being made, where public input is being taken and considered. And if you had a dedicated group, not Friends of Delaware Farm Park, a park subcommittee, then people could be expressing their wants and needs to them. They can gather that input to provide to the township committee.
Right, so to your point, we're not at that point where we don't need that now, right? Where we need that right now. Because right now, all we're talking about, again, put pickleball aside, right now, all we're talking about are the things that you just said nobody can argue with.
Right.
So if in 2024, the 4 people that are going to be here and one other person say, here's our roadmap for the next 5 years, and it's parking, bathroom, tennis courts, and there's no need for a subcommittee, because we're not talking about further development. We're not talking about a driveway at the Reamer property. And again, if that comes up in 10 years, that's for people 10 years from now to decide. If this committee right now, or the one in January of 2024 says, here's our wish list for the next 8 years or the next 5 years, and it's all the indisputable points that you just made, why have a subcommittee?
Couple reasons. It's better to be proactive rather than reactive. Right now, we are in reactive mode as far as Diltz Farm Park is concerned.
But that's not on us, though. That's on, if you're going based on Facebook posts and nonsense that's
I
out
know
there.
social media is not your thing.
No.
But you keep bringing it up.
I know, but if you have people like Ravenna Taylor that put out their interpretation of what we're doing here, that's why there's angst, Jan. If we put on the website, Delaware Township Committee is only considering improving the fields, improving the courts, improving the bathroom, improving the parking, improving the playground, and making everything handicap accessible, this all goes to sleep for now, doesn't it?
It might.
So that might be what we're doing.
But again, my point is that we as a community are being reactive to the maintenance needs of Diltz Farm Park because
we can't control that.
They haven't been funded for a long time. And now there's a pool of money that will allow you to improve things like the tennis courts, like the parking. But going forward in the next 10 to 15 years, don't you want someone looking at what the future of the park is?
Absolutely, but if you looked at the park planner's proposal, it says on there, phase 1.
Right.
What's going on right now?
Why are you so opposed to having a Diltz Park subcommittee?
Because we don't have any, you just said it, Jan, we don't have anything that's disputable right now.
Today.
Well,
But
because
When
Charlie Herman, who's out of here in
Jan,
30 days, cannot control 5 years from now. And neither can any of these people.
when phase 2 comes up, we will look for that input, and then we'll,
Do you know what a master plan is?
no, I'm
No,
not
sir.
a planning board.
That's basically what we're talking about. We are talking about a master plan for Diltz Farm Park.
We're not
We
there yet.
haven't been presented with one
I
yet.
didn't say we had. My point is, however, that the conversation about the things that need maintenance have nothing to do, in my
That's
mind, with the master plan. It's
Right.
a master
That's
plan.
where we're starting though.
We
Let's
can
worry
start
about the master plan after we're not worried about the kids getting hurt. That's the problem.
Can't we do both?
We can do
Yeah.
We
Can't we do both?
Yes,
Absolutely.
but to answer your question fairly, we are paying the engineer right now to do one. So we would have to
And
allow.
that makes no sense.
The
Where
engineer.
were you when we voted on it then?
I
thought you voted yes.
from the beginning.
You
Okay,
did vote
so
yes to
my
that, Sue.
point is that
Not on what?
we can address today's needs
All right, Jan.
while looking at tomorrow.
Jan, we've heard your input. Thanks so
Yep.
much. Anybody else for the good of the cause?
I have a second comment.
I would just like to say that I do feel very well informed because I'm interested in it.
Mhm.
And if people aren't here, that's not on the township committee, like, and the stuff that I am seeing on Facebook, I don't even know where you guys came up with this stuff.
You guys,
That there's gonna be driveways, that there's gonna be, the
It
only
was
person that
speculated when he did his presentation.
Excuse me,
He made the
I'm-
speculation.
No, it didn't, because the township committee members even asked, what are they doing with the Reamer property? The only person that said anything was Sue, because she said that we purchased that for recreation, and were we going to put soccer fields on that? That was the only part that even came into play, because that map doesn't even show that property.
with all due
So,
respect.
no, I'm sorry, again, I'm speaking.
Mhm.
So, if there are people that want to know what's going on, they should come to the meeting.
No.
The only thing that this township committee should be doing is maybe advertising a little bit better.
Yes, thank you.
But will people come? Because it is blasted everywhere that this meeting is happening tonight.
Mhm.
You made very clear that this was going to be discussed,
Mhm.
that the letter was going to be discussed.
Mhm.
And I
You
was
missed
here from
most
the
of that.
beginning of- What?
You missed most of that, I think.
Yes, because I was at the Board of Ed meeting, because I
Yeah.
can't miss that, I'm a member. But I get input, I'm at the park just as much as anybody else, and I get the input. You guys, you know, it is a safety issue. These kids should not be running from one side to another.
No one's questioning that.
Okay, but you are arguing with it.
No, no
They're
one is,
saying that these are the things that they want to change because of safety things.
no one is questioning the things that, topics that you're
So just let
raising.
them get that done.
That's
They
what
know
we
that
wanna do.
everybody wants to talk about what the future is. The Environmental Commission did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thank you, of sending them. And I remember when you guys presented that, and all of you were in agreement that that should be used for that. I mean, my argument is, why does this township why is my tax money being spent on land that's just sitting there for somebody else to farm? They're just putting crappy hay on there. That's not good for the soil.
Farmland.
Oh.
That is way.
Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, you know, you said that thing about where the narrow focus is for whatever it is, the next 5 or 8 years or something. Why don't you, I know you send out things to the township. Why don't you send out something, say, look, there's been some things around about some speculation on what was gonna happen at Dill Farm Park. This is the focus. It's, you know, whatever you guys said, the bathrooms and the snack shack and the parking lot. This is our focus. We're not looking at turning the fields.
Been
I'm just
saying that for 3 years.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I was in the meeting. I heard the speculation about how to use this and how to use that kind of thing. When people hear that, they don't necessarily disconnect him from you. Right? That's all I'm saying. That's the part I heard, and I'm going, holy crap. But you guys or mayor just articulated the fact, look, this is our focus. It's really right here. Why not say that to the township? Look, our focus is here. We're not talking about doing this with the Reamer property or this property, that property. Our focus is here, these things.
Ever since the referendum was presented to these folks, or to you, the public, that was always the issue, was the safety, 100%. So this is an extension of the referendum. So why would anyone ever anticipate that it would grow into something bigger than what you folks voted on?
Yeah, but all I'm saying is the speculation's out there.
Right.
Why not address the speculation?
Okay, I mean, that's up to the mayor, you know, that's
So,
up to the
all
mayor.
right, any other, we're starting to lose it here. Any other comments? I want to address one last thing on the park, because 3 comments were made about it. And 2 of them seem to be kind of a negative twist. The bocce ball court, for anybody interested, was not a Delaware Township funded thing. It was an Eagle Scout project that a very generous benefactor in the town who lost his daughter many years ago donated the materials for the bocce ball court to go into Diltz Park, and an Eagle Scout did that as a project. There's another Eagle Scout project that's going to be going on down there, and that's a Gaga pit. So we say it again at almost every meeting, that we are lucky to have Girl Scouts and Eagle Scouts that do projects. That bocce ball court did not just pop out of nowhere. He came and gave a presentation at the Township Committee. And I know the answer to this is, we talked about this at the Township Committee meeting, he presented on it. We're here, it's in our minutes, everything's reflected. So if we need to go door to door, maybe that's what we need to do. But it's, there's no there there. There's no, like, we don't, when everybody leaves, we don't say, all right, let's screw him over. That's not what's going on here. We're doing everything we can to have a transparent thing. It gets heated, it's exciting, it's good to have people that are passionate about things, that's great. But there's no agenda here. I don't agree with Sue or Chad on everything. I don't agree, but when I first started, I'll give you one little bit of history. When I first started on this committee, there was a resolution before the Township Committee about something that was a state push thing that was for the police. I voted no, and 2 people from the committee pulled me aside afterwards and said, why did you vote no and you didn't tell us? Well, because you vote your part. You vote what you feel is right. You don't vote just to get along. You don't vote just because that's the way everybody else is voting. We vote I think I said this already, we vote 97% of the time unanimously on this board. So if there's accusations that there's a boys club, that was out in somebody's letter to the editor that it was a boys club, that's not only wrong, it's offensive to the ladies that pull this whole thing together, the smart, genius people that pull this all together. This is not a boys club. This is not a, we're not out here trying, what you see is what you get. Does it get heated? Yes, but this is where we do it. Most of us don't socialize outside of here. This is the time we see each other once a month. It's not, again, as Jamie said earlier, it's not smoking, it's not a smoke-filled room. If you want to come, come. If you want to hear about it, follow the people on Facebook and get their versions of it as well.
On a lighter note, thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it, really. I'm on several boards of different entities, and I know what you guys do. And also, I just want to say, I finally got my 48 Ford tractor running. Do I have to register for the parade? For Christmas?
If Jess can answer without yelling at you, I'll let her answer.
I'm just loud, okay?
I'm teasing.
My farm voice. Yeah, you can just come to the school, the middle school parking lot is the one that's furthest east. Just come there around 3 o'clock.
I've been to it, but I finally got the old way around.
You can just show up,
See you
3
there.
o'clock, we'll line you
I'll
up.
be there.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.